American football in Finland.
The voice in your ears is Perfect Pervis, and this is American Football in Finland. Today, I'm joined by co-hosts Coach Q and Chris Green. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on?
Hey, y'all. Happy to be here. How's it going?
The AFF podcast is available wherever you listen to your podcast. They just put us on iHeartRadio, guys. We're on more than 25 different platforms. So wherever you are, wherever you listen, be sure to rate us. Anything less than 5 stars will tell us that you are a hater. And I mean that. I think on Spotify, we only have like 13 reviews right now. So most of our listeners are from Spotify. Just give us 5 stars, people. You know, we're trying to do some big things here. We need more reviews. So I'd appreciate if y'all go and do that for me. It's First Down, where we get a chance to start fresh and discuss whatever is on our minds. Q, what do you want to talk about today, man?
Obviously, in the U.S., we had another tragedy, another school shooting. Not something that you really want to talk about, but I guess what I really want to talk about is, man, we gotta figure out a way to change, man, as a country. Man, I don't know what's going on, man. We got to figure out a way to change this, man, because it's getting to the point now where it's like it's going to be the wild, wild west, and I want to avoid that. But that's the point we're getting to, man.
Do you feel like, I mean, I don't want to get too, politicky in here, but do you feel like this is one of the things that like gun control would be an issue that needs to be revisited in the United States?
I don't think it's 100% just gun control. I think it's also, this is a people thing too. I think like it doesn't matter if a person can buy a gun or not. If they want to do something, they're going to do it. They're going to find a way to do it. So I feel like it's going to mitigate who gets what and all of that, but there's still a person behind that thing. Like that's the part that we need to figure out how to recognize or try not to understand like what causes a person to do some damage like that, especially to kids or any human though. But it's a reason why this is happening. And I don't know. It's like the gun control part is part of it, but there's something wrong with people that do stuff like this. And I think we need to figure out how to recognize that or how to really just see the early signs of it or, take stuff more serious or just more precaution in life, period. I don't know, but
I agree. I think it's one of those things where it's like, I was listening to this podcast previously talking about the same situation. They're like, there's always going to be conflict in life. There's always going to be issues. There's always something. Things aren't always going to be perfect. It could be bad. It could just be, coincidental, whatever. Actually, they were talking about a certain type of person, but it still relates that, say if you're in the Northeast, you're in like Boston, New Jersey area, you get into a scuffle or something. Most likely, if you start mincing words with certain people, you could get into a physical altercation. And you're like, that's expected in that area. When you go to like rural towns in the South, you know that, hey, if you say the wrong thing, okay, we're going to have to go out back and we're going to have to, a fisticuffs. Yeah. But you also know, this hits me home personally because from the area I'm from, Southeast Houston, I'm from right outside of a major city. Where I'm from, in one city, if I go there, I know that, okay, if something go down, I'm going to have to pull out left and right. But I know that if I go into the 3rd Ward of Houston and someone don't like the way I look, I might not make it back.
Yeah.
Don't matter if I can beat them hand to hand because that ain't what it's going to be. Because I know for a fact they are holding. They coming. Like if I say something to the wrong person, I'm not getting to breathe again or talk about a fight. And is it because of the guns that they have access? No, all these areas have access that I'm talking about. But it's a mentality. I'll go a step further and blame some of these weak-ass parents out there. Yeah, I call them weak-ass parents because you raising your child and when things don't go their way or they don't like how something is, instead of dealing with that pain or trying to figure out a solution, you tell them, just go do this or go tattle, go get a gun or go do this. And you're not raising these kids to be stronger. I feel like, me and UQ from similar areas, we have a certain resilience to us. this also applies to, mental health. You get depressed and people are getting depressed and deciding to take other people's lives. As a Black man, I find that as a cop-out. Even something as bad as, going towards suicide. Again, I feel like you're cheating everyone else by taking your own life. Taking anyone's life, even your own, is something I don't really condone, but that's the way I was raised. I can't really just, tell other people to, accept my thought process. But also, if you have a different thought process, I'm not going to go get a gun and shoot up a whole bunch of kids at school anyways. So that's my piece on it. So I agree. We need to do better. But I do blame the parents. And I'm actually blaming my generation now because we are a shitty generation of parents. But I also blame my parents' generation too, because they made us think that we could do what we're doing with our kids. And now they're, I know I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Chris, you're not from the States. Give me a different topic. Give me a different topic. What's on your mind? I'm going to
give you something from the UK. So this week, we are celebrating the Queen Elizabeth's 70th Jubilee. So it's her 70th year on the throne, Platinum Jubilee. It's the first time a royal, a monarch has ever got there. So fantastic in the UK. There's big celebration this week. Lots of garden parties, lots of stuff going on in the UK. So a big landmark in the UK this week.
Tell me the truth. How is she still alive? What is she still in somebody's blood? Is she still in some young person's blood? Getting the
whatever she's taking, I want some of that.
Right?
Yeah. Is it true that the Queen is exempt from the laws? Like she doesn't go in the same laws? Like,
yeah, I think so. Yeah. She basically do what she wants.
She can do what she want to do.
It's good for us in the UK. We get another bank holiday, so we get another day off work. So
okay.
It's a win-win.
If you want holidays, come to Finland. We stay with holidays. Every Sunday is a holiday somehow.
Yeah.
Every matter of fact, I'm gonna throw this out here before we get into the actual football stuff. This weekend is like graduation, so all the leagues have made sure the schedules leave everybody open for Friday and Saturday. I'm saying my ass inside on Friday and Saturday because that means all the kids gonna be out. I don't want to deal with none of that.
Yeah, there's sailor hats and all that. Yeah.
Congratulations to everybody that's graduating. I hope we go out and have a blast. Just don't do it around me. I am a very old person. I'm trying to chill inside. I ain't trying to get lit or nothing like that. I live in Lahti, and anybody in Finland, y'all know what Lahti is like. This weekend, I'm putting bars on windows because, it could get crazy out here. Chicago or Finland. But that's first down. The players of the week have been announced on our social media channels earlier this week. But of course, we have to explain why we picked these guys. So let's get into offensive player of the week, quarterback of the Porvoo Butchers, Brandon Gwinner. Just to put out a couple stats. First of all, we don't pick by stats. Like, stats is not what we pick, but we just give you stats because people like to hear them. Okay. So Gwinner was 12 of 24 for 212 yards, threw 5 tubs, had 65 rush yards, and ran for a rushing touchdown. So Q, tell us, what about him stood out to you this week?
I think he just relaxed this weekend and got the ball out and made just good throws. I mean, if you look at the touchdown throws that he made, they were like in stride. The receiver didn't have to stop anything. He just pretty much just stayed in the same stride and made the throw. So he got the ball to his guys. I mean, Mikko Aspinen catching like 3. He did what he needed to do to pretty much make it happen. So I just seen that he was a lot more accurate. He was a lot more for sure of where he was going, and he led the receiver the right way. So yeah, like you say, his stats, okay, 50%, completion, but it worked. Half of the completions were like touchdowns. So, and you look at it that way, it was a good thing. So he had a good game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Q. And we were talking about it off air, but he has a lot less to work with, a lot less weapons to work with, and he's doing a great job with his offense there. And they absolutely trounced the Eagles. So it was a good day for that offensive unit of the Butchers.
Yeah,
I'm glad that he's the guy that we chose this week. The reason I say that is this was one of those games where if he would have played bad, we would have to start saying, okay, the Butchers don't have a shot. You know, like the Eagles defense, they're not great. We've all agreed that, but you still have to go out there and play. We saw other quarterbacks not play that well this weekend.
Yeah.
But Braden Gwinner went out there, did what he needed to do, took care of business. And that's what I really respect about his gameplay. Like you said, Q, he was making all the throws you're supposed to make. He made them, did some work with his foot, had an overall complete game. I wouldn't even blame him for the completion percentage, only completing 50%. It's not great, but I'll be honest with you. You got one receiver, guy. Oh, man. Throwing out more of the stats, to defend the pick. Mikko Aspinen caught 4 passes and had 3 touchdowns. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns out of those 4 catches. That lets you know that even though he was throwing the ball, only certain people were catching it. Okay, so it is what it is. You got to work with what you have. You got that young guy, Lucas Earla, out there, getting better over time. But he had a really great game this week. So we'll move to the defensive player. And defensively, we're going to have defensive lineman from Kuopio Steelers, Ikeem Allen, who totaled 6 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks in the shutout win against the Helsinki Wolverines, where their defense gave up 0. That's a goose egg. 0 points. What's one reason why you decided to go with this guy this week, Q?
He just had a presence. He had a major presence. He's a voice of the defense. He was all over Jabari pretty much. Every time he scrambled, he was somewhere in the mix or around. And when you got a guy like that on your D-line who's constantly making chaos and constantly going, he works up the rest of the defense and then he wears down your offensive line. So he was definitely the defensive player of the week. And I think we all can agree that even stat-wise, you can see that he was active. So just a great game for him.
Yeah, I agree. The offensive line of the Wolverines really struggled to block him. Even if they were double teaming him, he just seemed to slide off, get through, and make some great tackles. I think he was in there on that strip for Will Young as well. I'm not sure he was the one that got the ball out, but he was definitely in there on that tackle. And they got that forced fumble when Will Young fumbled it. And I mean, look at that defense as a unit. They restricted the Wolverines' offense. Like, it was insane.
2 first downs.
Insane. 5 rushing yards all game. My God, insane.
2 first downs.
I am not going to talk about the Wolverines with you guys right now during Players of the Week. I am not going to talk about the Wolverines with y'all. I know what y'all trying to do. But just
dangling that carrot.
Yeah, I see that. But to get back to the player, Ikeem Allen, he was, like you said, Q, presence. Early in the game, vocal and physical presence. I was at the game, guys, so I heard a lot of what was said. He was telling people to get off the field. He told them Will Young ain't going nowhere. That's run game. That's not even rush. Like, that's not sacks. That's, hey, tackles for loss. He had 2 sacks but 4 tackles for loss. So that's run game. He's stopping run plays. That guy's everywhere. One thing I think about this week, we give him the Defensive Player of the Week award, but I really feel like it's a defensive award for the Steelers. I really feel like you have to look at it that way. Like, this guy set the tone for that defense this week. His stats, backed it up. But when other players were making plays, he was usually the catalyst. And that's why we chose him as the player of the week, because he was the catalyst for that defense, whether he was in the play or not, both vocally and on the field. He was a leader, and they shut down the Wolverines offense. But I'll talk more about the Wolverines offense later, okay? Chris Green has Inside the Numbers for us today. Chris, take it away, man. What did you see out there?
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with Chris Green. And as you know, this is the part of the show where we take a look at my top 5 best stat lines of the week. Now, you got to be special to be in this, and you got to put something on film. Show me something. Now, let's get into it. Number 5, this week, I have Nolan Korpening of the United Newland Crusaders. He had 5 catches for 103 yards and 1 TD. At number 4 is Helsinki Roosters quarterback Bryce Stanko. He was 14 of 18 for 148 and passed for 3 touchdowns. He also had 1 TD on the ground in the rushing game. Number 3, we've got Mikko Aspinen of the Porvoo Butchers. He had 4 catches for 60 yards, and of those 4, 3 were for TDs. And when you get into the end zone, 75% of your catches, you know you're going to make my top 5. Number 2, we've got Ikeem the Dream Allen. He had 5 solos, 2 assists, 4.5 TFLs, 2 sacks. And I definitely think Coach Q winding him up is making him put in work on the field to prove you wrong. Number 1, we've got Brandon Gwinner, quarterback for the Porvoo Butchers. He had himself a day. He was 12 of 24 in a pass game, for 212 with 5 TDs through the air. He did have 1 pick, but he also had 7 carries for 65 yards on the ground and 1 rushing touchdown. And that's going to be it for Inside the Numbers this week. If you want to make my top 5, show me the proof. Put it on film and join me next week for Inside the Numbers.
Are you looking for quality football apparel and accessories at an affordable price? Reyrr Athletics is made for players by players. Head over to reyrr.se and get your drip today. That's REYRR.se. And use code AFF20 to receive 20% off all Reyrr brand products. Now let's talk about outside the numbers. Let's get rid of the numbers. Let's look at some key player performances that might not have been highlighted in the stat sheet this week. You can always find the stats online or even when Chris tells you about the top players. But who are some guys that played well this week, but maybe didn't put up monster stats that people who aren't us would notice? Q, who did you have on your list?
Well, it's not necessarily a person, but I went with the Wolverines' defensive line.
There you go.
It was a rotation of probably, I want to say maybe 5 guys. They were missing JMO, but I think they did a pretty good job given the circumstance of Kuopio not really having a lot of big run plays. They gassed them a few times, but for the most part, they got pressure on the quarterback, and that in turn helped the DBs out on some plays. But I want to say Wolverines' D-line looked great. I'm not even going to lie. They looked great. They held Kuopio Steelers to 14 points. The second one, I guess, was a pass. So I just think the Wolverines had a pretty good defensive showing. They showed what they could do against probably one of the best teams. And I think if they could take anything away from that game, that'll be one thing. It's just the D-line has a lot of potential to be a dominant D-line, and it can stand up against one of the better O-lines. So
I'll tell you what they can't take away from that game. A win. Chris, what about you? Who's somebody or something that you saw this weekend that stood out outside of the stats?
I'm going to say that game as well, but I'm going to go with a group. I'm going to say the Kuopio Steelers secondary. Great job. You had Ronnie Liner, Aero Vija, and Tino Dongo. They were just great, absolute stalwarts back there. Restricted Jabari with his options, shut down RJ Long, shut down the rest of the receivers. They had a fantastic day out, that whole Kuopio Steelers secondary. When you restrict a team that's as high-powered as the Wolverines, yeah, I know they've got a few injuries at the moment at receiver, but to 21 pass yards, insane.
Damn, 21 pass yards. That is impressive. I'm going to actually throw in that other 2 guys that play on that defense for the Steelers, just to round that out. Marcus O, I can't say last name, I'm 32, I'm sorry. And Eero Pekkarinen, I think that's how you say Eero's name. I'm just throwing those out there just so we know that whole secondary is 5 guys. They got a really good secondary. It's 5 guys who do that group. But what I saw this weekend that really stood out and has nothing to do with numbers is there was some feelings. And I'm going back to the same game that y'all are talking about. Steelers versus Wolverines, because it was the only good game of the weekend. Let's just be honest. There was some feelings out there in Helsinki, man. If you watched the game on Route 2, you heard it. If you were in the stands, here's a tidbit. I thought for a second that we were going to get one of them fights in the stands during this game. There was times where, a play didn't go one team's way, usually the Wolverines, and you have a lot of Finnish cursing going on. And immediately afterwards, someone from Kuopio, which there was about 20 people from Kuopio out there, would be like, "Go Steelers!" And then someone would be like, "The fuck you say?" And they're like, "Go Steelers!" And I'll be like, the friends was out there just like You know how it is, that passive aggressive. It was tense out there in the stands. I'm standing in the stands and I'm wearing a Steelers hat because that's my pick. But I'm sitting next to like nothing but Wolverines fans. So obviously I was, being myself, but I felt a little uneasy at some times because there was times in this game where both of these teams were very vocal early in the game. You seen Ville Veloste getting his guys up on the sideline, giving powerful speeches, Curtis Slater saying his thing, Ikeem Allen talking. But then you saw guys like Tino and Dongo, Ito Pekkanen getting in the faces of these American guys. There's a difference, and we all know it. Americans have this bravado. We're cocky, we're sure of ourselves, confident. But when you see Finnish guys saying, hey, I don't care who the hell you are, I'm part of the Kuopio Steelers, and we're going to get this done. It was a proud moment, guys, because I felt like I was at a football game. Felt really good. In the second half, not as great, obviously, but the Steelers didn't stop talking shit. They kept talking the entire game. Wolverines died down a little bit towards fourth quarter once they knew things were, over. But early on, there was a lot of animosity, a lot of tension, a lot of going on. It felt like a rivalry. And I feel like of the teams that we have in the Maple League, these two teams have rosters that we could build a rivalry here. We could build something. I'm not saying that either team will be more successful on the field, but mostly for the shit talking and being competitive, but not necessarily killing each other. And fan base wise, I would love to see the Wolverine fans go to Kuopio. That I think would be crazy. I don't think they're going to go because people are lazy in Helsinki. You don't know what it is, but that would be interesting. But I know wherever Kuopio goes, their fans follow, and seeing their fans hold it down for them like that, it was impressive. That's what stood out to me in the game. I know I'm talking way too much, but it stood out that this was a football game. If you ever happen to be able to see these two teams play, I suggest you go and watch that game because they were bringing it both on the field and off. So there's plenty of football going on in the world right now. I'm going to talk about some of the top stories of football outside of the Maple League. We'll start off with the Women's Maple League here in Finland, where this weekend the Tampere Saints Ladies took on the West Coast Phoenix and came away with a 34-26 victory. This game was everything. If you ever believed that teams get better throughout the game, this is the game that you wanted to be at, where the Saints were up at one point 28-6, and the Phoenix were like, no, we're not done. We're going to get back in this. And at the end of the game, the Saints were the better team, so they were able to, hold it on to the win. But it still was a great game to watch. If you want to know more about this game, you should check out our game report on AmericanFootballinFinland.com. Wrote a little article this weekend for you guys. And also, here in a minute, we're going to have an interview with the Saints head coach, Mikko Aspinen. Here with Mikko Aspinen, head coach of the Tampere Saints Ladies. Mikko, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Pervis. Great for being here.
Always good to talk to you. So we're going to go right into it. First questions first. I saw you on the sidelines. I want to know, what is the purpose of the red hat and the red gloves?
Well, as you probably noticed in the Mikko game, we have a lot of play calling that we do with hand signals in addition to other ways. So it's a lot easier since we're probably one of the teams who's actually been dress coordinated for all of the year. So all of our coaches are wearing the same colors. So I have to stand out some way so you actually get the signals.
That's super unique. That's what I thought, but I wanted you to say it so people would know that I wasn't just making it up. Because that's what I was like, he's out there wearing red. Everybody else is in blue, but now they can see him. That's really cool. Very inventive and a good way to, get your play calls in. So
yeah.
Let's talk about the game. Okay, you guys were up 22-0 at one point, 28-6 at the half, obviously, and then things went differently. My question is, did you guys make some type of adjustments on the offensive side once you got up by so much? Or was it more of they made adjustments on the defense that kind of changed what you were already doing?
I guess they made some adjustments. Well, we still went up and down the field. We just couldn't finish and couldn't execute on the red zone. So that was pretty much what stopped the offense at that point. So it's just something I think we kind of let up the gas, so to say, at that point, but we still need to execute a lot better on the second half.
That's what it looked like when I watched it as well. It's just you still moved it. I mean, y'all racked up a ton of yards. So
yeah, I think we had some like 500 or 600, 550 or 600 yards. We just need to finish drives better.
That brings me to my next question. I want to ask you about one player in particular, the quarterback, Amelia. I want to say, is it Ratu? Is that how you say her name?
Ratu, yeah.
Ratu? Yeah, Amelia Ratu. She had a monster game. I think she had a little bit over 360 yards passing, 4 touchdowns in the air, I think, or 3 and 2 in the
3, yep.
3 in the air, 2 on the run game, right? So
yep.
5 total touchdowns. That's a lot of points coming from one player. How did you feel about her in this game and how she played and how she led your team, to this victory?
She is definitely one of the best quarterbacks I've been around, and especially with the deep passing ability of hers, it's insane. Like everybody needs to spend the whole field, and we haven't done too much running with since she's a dual threat athlete. So we haven't done too much running with Amelia so far, but she is a beast.
That's so interesting. Then this is me getting off script that you said that she's a dual threat, because I literally had a conversation yesterday with I brought her up and I was like, it's crazy because this quarterback can run and they don't even run her. I was like, if I was there, I would run her, but that's just because I like to run the quarterback. But if you're putting up 300 yards in the air, and it looks like it's really good for your receiving core as well, because she spread it around. Everybody knows about Lada Ahonen, and she's, the next coming of the best receivers in the world. But all the other receivers were still getting balls. I can't remember the name of who's the number 87 tight end.
87, that might be Rasilahti though. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have 2 tight ends as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you do. But
I'm not that great with numbers.
Yeah, I'm not that great with names. So because, like I'm watching the game, I'm writing down numbers. It's okay, this player did this, and then looking up the name later. The number 87, I guess it's Rasilahti.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Ane Rasilahti. She's very impressive to me. I'm just putting that out there. From the tight end position, I know it's difficult to do what you do in the tight end position, catching balls in the middle of the field. Ball placement has a lot to do with it, but she was very, very consistent for you guys. But going into this bye week coming up, the whole league is on a bye this weekend. Going into the week, you guys are 2-1. How do you feel about where you are as a team development right now? It's your first year in the, the big league. You're in a good position, but how do you feel about your team right now?
I think one of the biggest things was to establish ourselves in the league. Like we've been in the league before, but we've always been like only scoring 7 or 14 points, kind of like in the gasp. And then so it's establishing ourselves. That's the biggest thing. And also understanding that it's a long season. Like we have the roster to improve throughout the season. So that's the biggest thing. And for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be working on our special teams, then bringing up different kind of stuff. We've been doing a lot of vanilla things so far. I know you're going to bring up the special teams. Yes, we're going to continue doing the onside things we do so far. So, yeah.
You know what was interesting? I was not going to say anything about the onside. I wrote about it, and I wrote an article about the game, and I wrote that, you guys did the onside. But if it works, I mean, it's 2022. There's some teams that don't punt. If it works, I feel like that's something that's great for you guys. Your defense is really good, so it doesn't hurt you to let someone start at the 45 or 50.
Yeah,
with the chance of getting it.
And we have a lot of we do a lot of statistics, a lot of analytics. So we have a lot of this has been we debated it throughout the winter time, and our coaches were full on bar. Let's not do punting. Let's not do
you go for 2. You don't do field goals either, right?
Yeah. As long as we stay up, if we score more than 50% of the time for the 2-pointers, we're already up.
I love that. I love that you're not old school, and especially with the women, because a lot of people that coach women try to take it back And you guys are running a modern type of game, and that's how it should be played.
And they take it way back. They go to the 80s and the 90s, and they go with like, we only have 2 players that can actually run the ball. We only have this and that. And I've seen single wing, and I'm like,
yes,
like this is insane. This is not how you're supposed to play football in like 2020. But it is what it is. So yeah, everybody does theirs.
And that's another thing. If anybody is listening, the women's league in Finland it's much better actual football than most women leagues, and you'll see that when you watch teams like your Saints, even West Coast Phoenix. Both of these teams pass a lot. Both of you teams pass a lot and pass well. Yep. That's the hardest part, is how do you get women to pass well? Well, you keep doing it, and you guys are doing great. So I got one last question, and I'm gonna let you get out of here. I personally think that the Women's Maple League is very competitive. They play great football overall. But, you being one of the coaches in the league, what is one thing about the Women's League that people here in Finland should know of why, you should follow this league and these games with these women, and support them?
I always kind of love the idea that they're just putting it all out there. They're just playing football. Nobody's getting paid, at least that I'm aware of. Nobody's getting, like, you're not bringing in people from around the world to play. These are just people who are working their jobs and then coming into practice, and they're paying to play. They've got to love it. I mean, they wouldn't be there otherwise. And the coaches also, nobody's getting paid. So there's a distinct love for the game that you don't see. Like all the emotions, it's pretty much like you're all in. This is something you love to do. That's why I love to support the Women's Maple League. And even the first and second divisions, there's a lot of love for the game. So that's what I like about it.
What I like about that is that sounds like real football, Obviously, some people haven't. But if you know what football like is in the States, I'm from Texas. So, I grew up playing, breathing football. And that's what it was. It was, we play football. We don't care if we're getting paid for it or not. When we're in high school and you're trying to get scholarships every Sunday, we still went and played backyard football.
Yep, that's what you do.
Yeah, it's what you do. I really like how players don't switch teams.
That's one of the things you can actually grow players. I mean, we've had Lotta for a lot of years. We've had Amelia for a lot of years. And she's gotten better every year at being a quarterback. And that's what it's all about.
If anybody's listening, take a page from what American football really is. If you look at high school, college, and even professional teams, they get players with the idea that we're going to have them for 3 to 4 years at least before they go to the next level where they get developed. Yes, what you guys have is, extended college. In college, you get players and you're like, hey, next 4 years, we're going to help you become the best you can be. And this is what you guys are doing out there. It's really great. Mikko, I'm glad you're able to talk today. This was a great interview. I promise we're going to get some more women's stuff on the podcast. And this is just the beginning, man. I appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, thank you, Pervis. And to anyone listening, you better come to some games because it's great fun.
That's great, man. All right, take it easy.
Yeah.
Going to the second game, the Turku Trojans beat the Loyal Lionesses 48-0. Now, I only saw a little bit of this game because the score tells you what happened, 48-0, but it is getting overwhelmingly consistent that the Loya team is not able to score enough points to be competitive in this league. That's just what it's been. They have not been able to put up a consistent offensive route or stop other teams. They've consistently given up over 40 points in 2 losses and 80 points in 1 loss. So I'm a little worried about that. But moving to the third game, which we recorded this on Sunday, so I just saw this game. Helsinki Wolverines beat the Mikkeli Bouncers 32-0. It was not a great game, but it wasn't a horrible game. The Wolverines just a much better team. Not much better. I'll take that back. They're a better team than the Mikkeli Bouncers were. And it just seemed like the Bouncers couldn't find a way to get on the board and force the Wolverines to play a different style than what they wanted to. The Wolverines were in control the entire game. It is what it is. I think the Bouncers are just going to have to figure something else out because they just didn't have enough options to really compete against this team. And that's how the women's league is going to be this year. But I don't get too much into it. So I will talk a little bit about the players of the week this time. For offense, we have quarterback Amelia Retu, I think is how you say her name. I'm just going to talk about her stats. She was 22 for 44, 365 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. She also had 55 rush yards and 2 rush touchdowns. So, yes, she totaled 5 touchdowns in this game and over 400 yards of total offense. So Amelia was everything for the Tampere Saints offense, and she really did command the game both in the air and with her feet when she needed to. She didn't rush a lot, and when she did, she was really effective, but her throwing was really good. She hit a lot of receivers. I want to say 5 or 6 different receivers. I think she had 2 receivers go for over 100 yards apiece. So she was consistent and getting the ball downfield and to multiple options. She hit 2 tight ends. So she had 3 receivers and 2 tight ends that got the ball from her for sure. So she definitely spread it around like a young Aaron Rodgers. On defense, linebacker from the West Coast Phoenix, Aino Yoro. She had 15 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass breakup, and half a sack. For me, when I was watching the game, I was just like, man, that number 49 is everywhere. She is doing everything. If it's a run play, she's making a tackle. If it's a pass play, she's making a tackle. If the ball is in the air, she's there. She was very consistent presence for this game for the West Coast Phoenix. And part of the reason that they actually made a go for it towards the end was, her making plays in the backfield to make things difficult for the Saints where they weren't able to overcome. So big kudos to both of those 2 players. With these games being over, we should know the women's pick'em. I'm going to do the stats real quick because we are all tied. We're all 7-2. Yeah, we're all 7-2. Me, Ellie, and Becky, we're all 7-2 because I picked the Wolverines to win and they both picked the Bouncers. So that's how I caught up. And that is Women's Maple League. I feel like it took a long time, but that's how it goes. So the next thing I got on this list is Women's Football Alliance. We have 2 Finnish women playing in the Women's Football Alliance, and both of these Finnish women, Nana Olavuo and Tutti Kuusinen, both of them are first team All-Americans in the WFA. First team. They're actually going to play an all-star game or All-American game in Canton, Ohio at the Hall of Fame Stadium in July. Also, both of these women are on playoff teams. Nana's team, the DC Divas, they're number 3 seed, and they're going to be playing against the number 2 seed Tampa Bay Inferno on June 11th, which is in 2 weeks, while Tutti's team, the Boston Renegades, they're number 1 seed, and they'll be playing number 4 seed Pittsburgh Passion on June 11th. And that's the update on Women's Football Alliance and our 2 players over there. Next up, we got the Scandinavian Cup happen, getting back to men's football in Sweden, pretty much. This weekend, the Kristianstad Gladiators played against the Tyresö Royal Crowns. This game went to overtime, which is surprising because I expected it to be an overwhelming win. But Tyresö was able to pull it off in overtime, 45-39. And this puts Tyresö Royal Crowns in the Scandinavian Cup final. The next game that happened was that Eidsvoll 1814 versus Stockholm Mean Machines. Mean Machines took care of business 50-3 and punched their ticket to the final as well, where they'll take on Tyresö in Stockholm on July 18th. The last game from the Scandinavian Cup was Oslo Vikings versus Karlstad Crusaders. Crusaders got the win 12-6, really close game. 2 very good international teams. They were basically playing for second, and Karlstad got it. Oslo, I think they're 1-2 playing in the Scandinavian Cup, so they found out that these Swedish teams are really serious for them. So that's that with Scandinavian Cup. I think the next weekend, the Sweden League goes back, so they'll have actual Sweden games coming up before they get back into the Scandinavian Cup at the end of June. Last thing I got on here, international competitions. I looked at the GFL a little bit. I didn't see any games that stood out or that were important to me. I'm thinking of the ELF, that starts in about a week, right? I think it starts at the beginning of June.
Yeah, we're getting close to it.
Yeah. So once that starts, I'll be following that a little bit more closely, and I'll have more stuff for y'all. In Italy, they played week 12 games. Bologna Warriors beat the Lazio Ducks 28-21. That upset my picks because I picked the Ducks. And now, since the Warriors won, both teams are 3-5. And they might be in like a three-way tie for fifth place after the rest of the games that are played today, because the Parma Panthers played the Verona Mastini today, but Panthers are in second place, Veroni's in last, so that's not a big deal. But the Modena Vipers play the Guelphi Firenze. The Modena Vipers are 3-4. If the Vipers lose, which they should, because they're 3-4, Guelphi is 5-2. If Vipers lose, they'll be 3-5. Them, Bologna, and Lazio will all be tied for fifth through seventh place. So there'll be three teams tied for two slots. So that's how they're getting in Italy. It's getting real close. I think there's about 2 more weeks left before the season is into playoffs. So it's getting real tight for some of these teams in the middle. And that is my rundown of other news, football outside of the Maple League. Women's Maple League is going to be taking a break this next week. So next weekend, I'll actually do an in-depth women's portion of the podcast and go over like stats leaders and teams that are doing. And I'm proud to say that I've watched enough football this season for the Women's Maple League that I'm ready to start putting my opinions out here on the podcast. I haven't done it so far because I didn't want to just be saying stuff for no reason, guys. But now I've watched enough games. I've seen all the teams play. I have a better understanding of how they're playing and what the players are doing. I'm going to start talking a little bit of trash, as I do. If you're listening to my voice, you're now part of the AFF community. But don't be shy about supporting us. Head over to our website and order some AFF swag. Get a t-shirt for this beautiful summer weather, or a comfy hoodie you can rock all year long. And if you really want the drip, scoop up one of our limited edition snapback caps. Everything you need to represent the AFF community can be found on our website at americanfootballinfinland.com/merch. We all know, what happened in the games this weekend. So let's talk about which teams won and which teams lost their game. First up, we have the Roosters versus Crusaders game. Chris, who won this game or who lost this game?
So the Helsinki Roosters came out winners, absolutely dominated UNC in this one, and UNC didn't have a hope in hell in this game at all.
I agree 1,000+%. This is one of those games where I don't want to waste my breath talking about it, honestly. Do you guys agree?
Yeah. There's a few takeaways, though. Like Bryce Stancombe looks legit.
Yeah.
What he throws,
really
like
good.
two incompletions, 3 incompletions, maybe 4.
4. He was 14
4
for 18,
incompletions.
78%.
Yeah, 14 of 18. Yeah. So he was very safe with the ball, very sensible, threw some TD passes. They took him out to protect him for injury. They gave Henry some garbage time, and he threw 1 TD as well. So they're doing their thing there, the Roosters. They're building into the season. I think they're getting better and better every week as the week goes on.
Must be nice to play the Eagles than the Crusaders, right?
Yeah, strength of schedule. I mean, they can get some things down. They can work some things out that they need to work out, see what's working for them, see what they want to throw away out the playbook. So it's a nice couple of games for them to, a strength of schedule. We talk about it in the NFL all the time, like who's got the stronger or weaker schedule. And it seems like, yes, they come off losing to the Steelers, but they got 2 nice games back to back to work out those kinks that maybe didn't work for them in the first game.
True. So we won't waste too much time. Let's move on to the second game. We had the Kotka Eagles playing against the Porvoo Butchers. Everyone knows how that game went. Another game where one team had 0 points. Q, who won and who lost this one?
Porvoo Butchers won the game. Kotka Eagles lost it. Simple and plain. The Eagles are just not ready. They're not ready yet to compete. I won't say fully, but they're just not ready to do the things they need to do to manage these games. I don't know if it's depth or if it's skill abilities. They do have some good players. I just think it's growing pains right now. It's you wanted to be in this league, And now you're going to have to go through the growing pains of being in it. I don't think they're a terrible team at all. I just think they have to find a way to put points on the board against good teams. I'm not saying that Porvoo is a bad team, but they need to be able to score on teams like Porvoo if they plan on making it to the playoffs. They'll get better. It's just growing pains for them right now. But Porvoo obviously won the game. Brandon Gwinner had a pretty good game. He put the ball in the end zone, did his thing. They actually even have a running back. We don't talk about the running back that much, but number 7, he's been running pretty hard. He got one call back. Brandon is a guy that's gonna fight, and I think it'll be some other games like this where he'll be on, and they'll compete. The guy is the leader of the team. Him and Mikko hooked up a few times. He hooked up with the young boy a few times too. So Porvoo Butchers definitely won the game. It was something to see.
Before we get to the third game, I'm just gonna talk about these two teams because I have to throw this out here. When you look at UNC and you look at Kotka, obviously we're looking at them both and we're like, okay, these are gonna be on the bottom of the league. When I see UNC play, I feel like, yeah, they're not great, but they could score. I look at the offense. And there's times where I'm like, well, this goes that way, this goes there another way. This offense might be able to put up points. Sometimes they move the ball down the field. And you're like, okay, cool. You look at the Eagles and you're like, to hell. How do they get on the other side of the field? I don't know. Because nothing they do makes sense that they will be able to do that. And even in this game, that they had the import receiver come in and he made a couple plays, but it didn't come to the point of like, you can't really just rely on that one guy. And when you do your run game, it doesn't add up because you're always behind. The play calling doesn't really help you. Then the quarterback gets hurt. I know that's a horrible deal, but it wasn't like when they had Chris Forsythe, all of a sudden they were just going to be putting up points. They weren't. So even when he got hurt, nothing really changed. That's the difference in those two teams right now. Both teams aren't helping the Maple League overall, but at least one team, I feel like I see progression from week to week. For the Eagles, I haven't seen progression. All I've seen is losing over and over. So that's my 2 cents on those two. But let's get to the meat of things. The one good game of the week, in theory.
This is the one. This is the one.
Yeah, the Helsinki Wolverines hosting the Kuopio Steelers. Now, I wasn't going to take this one, but Coach Q said I should. So I will. That's how we do it. Oh, man, there's a lot to say here. Actually deciding who won and who lost isn't that hard on this one. The Steelers won. You felt like you watched two teams who you think could be Maple Bowl contenders or even Maple Bowl winners. And both of these two teams came out, a lot of jaw jacking, as I said earlier, heard a lot of talking. But the difference in the teams was the Wolverines were talking, but that's about it. That is what they did. They talked. The Steelers were talking as they were playing, and you saw it in the way that they held themselves in the game, how they reacted to plays. The Wolverines in this game, you could tell that when they felt like they weren't going to win, heads were hanging down. Guys weren't trying to motivate each other on the sidelines anymore, and it just went away. And that's how you know that it was just talk. Now, I can't say that for the other team because they never really were losing, but the Steelers never really slowed down in their aggressiveness and how they felt about their play in this game. As they played in the third quarter, they had the same intensity as they had in the first. Wolverines didn't have that. That's why I say definitely that the Steelers won because they went into that other team's house and took the victory. They came in and said, we're going to win. They didn't play the best game of the season, but they also didn't – there was never a point in that game where I was like, man, Wolverines might pull this one off. Mm-hmm. They never gave me that look. I'm not going to talk too much because I know Chris has a lot of notes on it, but actually I do have a lot to say. So I'm going to let it ride. The last thing I want to say, because I have to yield the floor. I have to yield the floor because everybody knows there's so much to be said. I have to yield the floor. But what I want to say, and I don't know what your notes say, Chris. I don't know what you got written down either, Q. I want whatever people say about this game, I really wish people would talk about the game as it is, because I feel like there's a lot of people in the football world who are going to bring up, well, the Wolverines didn't have this, that the score was only by 15 points. A lot of like hypotheticals of like, well, their defense didn't have to do much because we didn't have these many players, blase, blase. One team looked like they were going to win the game the entire game. Normally that's a blowout, but in this game it wasn't. The reason it wasn't a blowout is because the Wolverines' defensive front was really good. But as good as that defensive front was, they never looked like they were just going to stop the Steelers' offense completely, which they didn't, because it takes a full defense. And this is alluding to where the holes are in the Steelers' defense, right? I mean, the Wolverines' defense. That's all I want to say. Before I get into y'all stuff, let's leave all these hypotheticals of, if this happened, if that happened. The game that was played, one team looked like they were going to win the entire time, and one team looked like the bottom of somebody's shoe the entire time. So with that, I'll pass it to Chris Green, who obviously has something to say about it.
Yeah. A lot of people will say that this game was a defensive battle, but I actually don't think it was. I think both defenses balled out. But when you look at how the Steelers played, they had over 240 yards of offense. And they would have had more if it hadn't been for some key drops that they had. I remember a couple. Isaac Marshall dropped one. I think Harju dropped a couple. And they were scores as well, So that game, the score sheet, I don't think it really reflects on how that game was. It could have quite easily been 20-something to 0, 30-something to 0. I think the Steelers need some help at receiver. I don't think they have a true number one receiver at the moment. Yes, they rely heavily on their run game, but when their run game wasn't quite working, okay, Lee Anthony still had nearly 100 yards rushing, but he was only averaging, I think, 2.9 yards per carry or 3-point-something yards per carry, which is not the Lee Anthony that we know. Yes, okay, it was wet. Yes, it's hard to run on the velodrome, but when that run game's not working for them, who's their playmaker? Who are they going to go to? Who are they going to throw the ball up to? And then you look at the Wolverine side of the things. I mean, geez, how are you going to win a game with 26 yards of offense? You got no hope in hell. I know that Kuopio Steelers defense is good, but geez, 26 yards of offense? Wolverines, man, do something. Jeez. How are you going to win a game with 26 yards?
Did they do anything?
Crazy.
Did they, when it got bad, did they change things up? Was there any people, did the play calling change?
It didn't look like it, no.
No,
They didn't
it did
try
not.
anything special. Like,
yeah.
maybe run a trick play. Do something to get the juices flowing. Do something different. But there was just nothing. Like, it was I remember that I posted that meme in our group of a guy with a stick where he's poking the Wolverines logo. Like, do something. Jeez. And we talked about Ikeem the Dream already. We had him on the show. Like, we talked about him. He balled out defensively. That whole Kuopio Steelers defensive line balled out. The secondary balled out. Okay, the Wolverines didn't have Martin Emos, but one receiver I don't think makes that much of a difference when you're only putting up 26 yards of offense. So the Wolverines need to sort it out. They need to do something.
There's one way to win a football game. You have to score more points than the other team. There's no other way to win a football game. You can't win a football game by not scoring. It's physically impossible. You can win by stopping the other team from scoring, but you still can't technically win without scoring points. And if you don't score any points, I don't get why people think that not scoring points or not getting beat by a lot of points is just as good. Like, there's people that really think that, okay, they only lost 15-0. It's different if they only lost 15-7, because then you can say, well, they were able to score. They showed some progress. If you don't score any points in a football game, a 3-hour game, 60 minutes anyways, or is it 60 minutes? No, 12-minute quarters, 48 minutes of playing time. If you don't score any points, it doesn't matter if they beat you 1-0. You never had a chance to win because you were never going to score any points. And that's what the Wolverines look like. They never were going to score. There was no point in this game. They didn't
score, no.
No point in this game.
Like it at all.
What about you, Q? What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, man. I just want to read you guys something. 2 first downs, 5 rushing yards, 21 passing yards, 26 yards of total offense. There were 8 for 70 penalties and 2 turnovers. Now, if I'm a Wolverines player, coach, fan, anything, I would be embarrassed because not only where you end the game, but you just weren't in the game. You know, it's like it almost looked like offensively there was no game plan. I don't know. I like the game. The plays were just so sporadic. It was like, wait,
No flow.
like what? It wasn't a zone read. It obviously wasn't zone read. It was zone. They running a lot of zone because it was
action.
I felt like maybe they probably came into this week overthinking the Kuopio Steelers. And I think Kuopio came into the game expecting more than what they got. So offensively for Kuopio, they pretty much played a throttled down game of like, let's just run the ball and see what we can get there since the weather is what it is. And like Kuopio, I would say they controlled the clock in this game. They didn't finish drives all the time. They didn't score the second touchdown to the fourth quarter. So with that being said, that kind of shows you how good of a team Kuopio is. They literally knew that they weren't scoring a lot of points, but they knew they could score at some point. They was patient. You know, they had their miscues. They gave up a few sacks, actually. I think they might have gave up 4 to 5 sacks or something. But I don't think Kuopio got exposed or anything by this game. Like, I feel like if anything they want to feel bad about is maybe not putting many points. That's about the only thing, but we can contribute that to weather or whatever. But I feel like the Wolverines got a real eye-opener in this game. And, like, what kind of team are you going to be? Because you got too many big names. I don't care who played or who didn't play. You had Jabari on the field. You had James on the field. You had RJ on the field. You had Benji on the field. You had Velestia on the field. Like, it still was a lot of big names on there. Slater on the field. It was a lot of big names on there still to where you only needed 8 points up until the fourth quarter. You only needed 8 points.
Shouldn't have been that.
Field goal. You could have kept the field goal.
Jabari had to run out the back of the end zone because he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, that right there just let me know that mentally the Wolverines just weren't in the game offensively.
Yeah, they weren't ready. It didn't seem like they were ready. And I like what you said about the game plan. I'm sure they did have a game plan. They had a plan A, but they didn't have no plan B when plan A didn't work.
They were
they did. Yeah, at halftime there was no type of adjustment made. There was no type, like you have to feel good being like, okay, we're playing horrible on offense, but we're only a touchdown down. Like, we're only a touchdown down. So you mean to tell me in 4 quarters nobody could figure out any kind of way to get 2 first downs, bro? 2 first downs?
I feel
they played well on defense. If you can restrict a guy like the Anthony Reasnover to less than 100 yards, you should be competing in that game. You should be winning that game. I
feel like this is one of those things where when we're talking about the Wolverines, we agree that they, as a team, just in general, they probably were thinking, we're only down by this. And I'm just going to say this. That's a loser's mentality.
Yeah.
I'm only down by this isn't the same as we can do this or here are our opportunities. This is how we can score. They weren't thinking offensively, or not even offensively, attackingly. It's a defensive mechanism saying that if I'm only down by this, eventually we'll score. That's what they're hoping. And I say hope because you're not planning. You're not planning to score. You're not scheming. You're not strategizing. You're saying, well, if our defense is good enough, then eventually we'll catch up. But how the hell are you going to catch up? There's no plan. If you really want to put it on it, that's what happened. The defense, the front seven was fine. They played really good, but we all saw those passes that could have been touchdowns. Those receivers wide open.
Yeah, they were.
It wasn't like, oh, this DB made a play on the ball. The DB was 5 yards behind them, and they dropped the ball. I think there was like one pass where it's just a little too far, which probably
that was the hard you down the left-hand side.
Yeah, where it happens, but with the drops, these guys are open and these drops are happening, which means you don't have that much time to just wait around. This game could have got ugly fast if things had went differently, but they didn't, and the team played like it wasn't ever going to get ugly. They played like the team was really only 2 scores better, when in actuality, this team was at least 5 scores better than them. And it's going to be hard to hear because people are like, well, they only scored this. Yeah. But watch the film. If you grade the players off of what happened in the film, the secondary for the Wolverines, hey, we named some names. They had an injury, but before that injury, after the injury, that secondary wasn't in sync. I saw plenty of times where guys were wide open and the quarterback wasn't able to get them the ball because that front 7 did their job. But when he was able to get the ball downfield, you saw wide open receivers. It's not like that only happened on those throws that they missed. That was happening the whole game. Again, I did say the Steelers had the best defensive secondary. I don't feel like the Wolverines proved me wrong. I don't see how that would have proved me wrong, all those wide open receivers.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. Like you say, it was just drops.
Yeah, got just drops. It's not like the guy's not open. Offensively, we could talk about this all day. If you have Jabari Harris on your team, you have a chance. But if you don't utilize Jabari Harris on your team, you don't have a chance. They reminded me of what Jabari looked like in that season with Porvoo when they came in last place. He didn't look like the Jabari Harris we saw last season, who was running plays, very poised in the pocket, threw the ball. A lot of his throws were sporadic. He was missing receivers. I don't think it's because he doesn't know how to throw the ball. I think it was because he wasn't comfortable. There was always pressure. He was always trying to avoid on that safety. No one was open. It was 3rd and long inside your own 10-yard line, and they had nothing but deep routes. Like he was going to have 10 seconds to go back and throw the ball. He was just trying to create time and ran out of real estate because they didn't understand the situation as a team. And that's on the team. And I think that this is one of those things that I said before the season, and they're proving me right, is that the Wolverines are going to be the Wolverines.
Hey, you're right about that.
I didn't fall for it, guys. I didn't fall for it.
1 week.
Hey, I still think they're going to be the
great.
2nd place team at the end of the season.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but
You might be right.
I chose my first place.
You might be right. But what they do is 1 week, they look like the hottest team. And then the next week, it's like, oh my gosh, and that's just how they are. That's how they play.
And 2 different teams too, though.
Yeah.
But that's how you can find the measure of a team by looking at how they play one of the best versus one of the worst. Even in the game that they won, and now we're getting off topic of this game, but in the game where they put up all those points they won, you didn't feel like they were doing something special, right? You just feel like, okay, it was a good opening warm-up.
Yeah.
But now they had a challenge. This was a test. And you get to see how adversity defines players and teams. And this was a game where you're constantly in adversity, and they never showed any signs of it. Comparing them to a team like the UNC team. The UNC team had no business winning against the Roosters. We knew that wasn't going to happen. But there was glimpses. There was flashes. Shea Netter was dropping the ball in the bucket in some of those throws. Now, they could do it consistently to get downfield, but you saw the progression. The Wolverines never had any progression in this game. I don't know how many carries William Young had.
10.
But I know he didn't have enough touches.
Yeah,
I know he can catch out the backfield. I know he can play slot receiver. I know they did nothing to get him the ball outside of handing it on a zone or a stretch, which gives him no opportunity.
This was another thing. This is just me. This is the last thing I'm going to say. I feel like the Wolverines team overall has good players. I don't think they paid attention to the other team's signings when they made their signings. And what I'm saying by that is they're real DB heavy when there's nobody else in the league who is necessarily receiver heavy. Like there isn't a team where they have to man up with. The Roosters are a young receiving core right now. They do have like 1 or 2 guys, but I feel like the Wolverines didn't necessarily address the places that they should have fully. Linebacker. You're going to play Region Over. You're going to play Powell.
That last DB that they signed, he played linebacker in this game, though.
I mean, I've just seen a true linebacker. Though.
Yeah, he's
like
a small
true.
linebacker.
I just feel like the team is built to stop passes, but didn't do it this game because it was so much running going on that they went to sleep back there pretty much, and that's how Kuopio kept killing them with the play action. Every time he was doing full play action, steps, fakes, like really. And I mean, even got the pump fake off of one time. And I was like, this is when you literally like has worn down a defense kind of would just run. Like we've been running so hard.
Because just to be specific about who you're talking about, I'm putting names out there. You got two safeties in Curtis Slater and Eric Irvin. Let's call a spade a spade. These are two aggressive safeties.
Yeah.
These aren't two guys who want to roam the secondary and find balls in the air. If they see that it's a run, they're coming.
Yeah.
Slater going to take your legs out and Eric going to take your head out. Like, they're coming. I give them that. But the problem is, if they come, they're also your best cover guys.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as you make them do the run game, you're putting those other guys on islands, and those other guys are finished guys who they're losing them matchups.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I don't see how that helps. Like you said, I don't understand how having those type of guys in those positions helps their team. Both of those guys are going to be taking chances. From that aspect, too, I understand why you keep getting secondary people. But if you're going to get them and you utilize them correctly, because I feel like they're not utilizing the players that they do have so they can be a good team. And again, this is why I say the Wolverines are the Wolverines, because this is what they do. They get good players and then leave it at that. It takes more than just good players to win in the Maple League now. Back when we played, all you needed was, perfect Pervis or, Coach Q, and you could win anything. Those are not facts. My teams were never good. I can't sit here and lie to you guys. My team was horrible. Horrible. But that's win or loss. I'm gonna get sidetracked. I'm not gonna give y'all all my business, okay?
All right, guys. So you're here with Coach Q, Pervis, and our other host, Chris. We got a special guest today, none other than the Kuopio land shark himself, Ikeem the Dream. Everybody welcome Ikeem the Dream to the interview.
What's happening? Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. Happy to be here.
Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. We got a few questions for you. Some of the fans probably want to know some things about you too, but Pervis, what question you got for Ikeem first?
Well, this is what I want to know. Do you feel that the Kuopio Steelers defensive front seven is the best in the league? And if you do, why?
Without a doubt. I feel the reason why is because our gap integrity is way more stronger as a unit than any other, defense that I've seen running a 4-2-5 defense. Most of the teams that runs a 4-2-5 defense, the DNs are just crashing outside or doing the, things that as a 4-2-5 defense is not made for. Mm-hmm. So, it's plenty of playmakers on the Wolverines and the Roosters and teams like that. But as far as gap integrity and as far as, being disciplined, as far as all levels on the front seven, I feel like we have the strongest front seven because they're being coached very well.
I want to know, do you think, in your opinion, the Steelers are better this year than they were last year?
As a unit, 100%. Last year, I think that we were extremely strong on one side of the field. This year, I think that we're very strong on like all levels, DB, secondary, back end, and defensive line. We don't have Semi Raji that provides that, consistent speed rusher, but we still have the guys that have the potential to provide that same, game to their game, but it's not the same as Semi, but that doesn't make us a stronger, defense overall that makes us work together and makes us know like, hey, we got to make a play, not only on the D line, but as well linebackers, as well as DBs, as well as safeties and special teams. So I think as a unit, we are stronger.
Me and Pervis obviously been around Finland football for a long time. I actually got to play against Kuopio back when I was playing, but it's always been a nice football city culture. Now that you guys, I can say, are the top dogs, right? You hear about the Roosters and you heard about the Butchers in the past, but now Kuopio is a top dog. How is it in Kuopio right now? Like as far as the football world, what's the culture like there?
Well, it's gotten a lot better since I've been here. You know, when I first got here, not too many locals were focused on the American football itself, you know what I mean? But now, since we've won the championship last year and we have made, you know, continuous noise as far as the imports and as far as the coaching staffs and stuff like that, and the off the field things that's been going on in Kuopio, we've extremely helped the organization out, you know, with the sponsors and stuff like that. So as far as everything, the football culture and the locals, it's gotten way better because, you know, you win, always gain more fans, you know what I mean? So that's been the glory of it.
I want to double down on that. So if Kuopio is, you know, like a football town now, you know, everybody knows the Maple Bowl is in Kuopio. I'll be real honest with you. I'm not really trying to travel that far for the Maple Bowl, but, you know, I'm going to give you the opportunity right now. Explain to me why, you know, people should come to that game, whether you guys are in it or not, just hypothetically, the Kuopio fan base, Kuopio city. Why should people come to Kuopio to watch football?
I think, you know, since I've been here, I've always heard Helsinki is the place to be. Helsinki is the, you know, the top teams and the top tier teams in this league. You know, I think that Kuopio would be a nice switch up, you know, like, you know, just to pass the torch on, you know what I mean? Like Helsinki had their glory years, you know what I mean? But, you know, now it's like it's time for a new beginning, a new team to be on the rise. And I think Kuopio is the great place to be, you know, to like watch some good football and see some new fans, new faces, new coaching staff, just new environment overall. So
do you feel at this point that anybody can stop your front seven?
Well, I felt like that before the season. You know what I mean? You know,
okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
I had full confidence, you know, like through the off season because I was here to stay throughout the whole winter. You know what I mean? So I was here the entire off season, getting the guys in early and stuff like that, and coaching them up because Coach Pekka gives me the, you know, opportunity to coach the defensive line, interior and outside. So, you know, just getting these guys, seeing them grow, seeing them, you know, use the tools that I give them and stuff like that. It's been an extreme confidence booster. I am extremely confident, like, as far as the defensive line and the front seven in general and back end, because, like, you know, the chemistry is there. You know, it doesn't matter if it's first string or second string. We've been in a situation where we didn't have our first or second string, and we still, you know, made some mistakes, but we still fought through adversity. You know what I mean? So as far as like, you know, the front seven, I really, truly don't see anyone mentally or physically keeping up with us.
There it is. There it is. Honesty has its best. Yeah. There it is. But Ikeem, thank you for coming on, talking to us, answering a few questions for us, man. It was nice having you on the podcast. We look forward for the rest of your season. Good luck. We definitely going to be picking with you and against you. So just get used to it.
I'm here for it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Hey, I'm never picking against the Steelers. No cap.
Hey, just do it. They'll motivate us more. So, you know, I'm all for it. I love y'all podcast. Y'all doing a great job. I'm happy you guys, you know, got me on here. You know, I love hearing you guys talk. You know, it motivates me on and off the field. So, you know, it makes me keep grinding because I want to, you know, I see someone that's actually looking and actually has something to say about the game and the game in Finland. So it really is a great thing that you guys have this platform because it really turns us differently. You know what I mean? So, yeah I love you guys and I appreciate you guys having me on this platform and much love.
All right. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Have a good one, y'all.
I'm now joined by offensive coordinator for the Helsinki Roosters, Coach Daniel Stanzel. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for asking. So thank you. First of all, thank you for coming on to the show. We've got some questions for you today. So I'm just going to fire away straight away and get into it. So what aspects of the Roosters offense made it possible for your quarterback, Bryce Stancombe, to be so efficient against the UNC defense?
I think to answer that question, we have to talk about Bryce himself. I've been around a few teams now in Europe, and I haven't seen an arm talent like him or like his. We actually play basketball as well, and that guy doesn't miss from the 3-point line. So he's a great quarterback, obviously talent-wise, but especially when you watch film, you can see the nuances of the game and his reads and the stuff he does really well. So, here I just have to say he made it work. And the film really exposes that too, the stuff that he does so well. I think that was the key to get into a rhythm. And I can only just recommend anyone who kind of, is into quarterbacking to watch our games. I truly believe he's one of the best right now in Europe.
I'm glad he's doing well, because that first game against Swedish Hall that you played pre-season, we didn't really get to see much of it because there was a few offensive line issues and stuff, but you seem to have worked that out now. And he's absolutely balling back there. He's got time to throw. He's making right reads. He's being very efficient. He's being very, very safe, but also throwing a lot of touchdowns as well. So it's exactly what you want from your starting quarterback.
For sure. And I think, that also shows the kind of leadership that he brings to the table. It's his first contract in Europe, and he comes to Finland, and he comes in January to Finland, and works with me and with this really young offense, and then suddenly your first game is against Schwäbisch Hall. So kudos to him for buying in, for building this culture and developing the young talent we have. And the growth that we as an offense have taken is because of Bryce and the stuff he does.
Great. I'm glad he's a good fit for you. Looking back at the UNC defense that you played, what were you able to exploit in that defense to help you get an early lead in the game?
You probably saw on our sideline we were very low in numbers. We were missing about 20 players, and our leading rusher, Aatu Mikkonen, he was out with an injury, and our left guard and college prospect Alex Inati, he was out. So we had to move some pieces around. Our tight end Gustav Wallstein started as our left tackle, and Daifi and Gazinen shared running back reps. So the start was really about get our footing, see that we get the confidence early, and call plays that work for us, because especially with this young team, they don't really know how good they really are. And as soon as it clicked, then it took off. And I made sure to feed those running backs. And I think on the first play of the game, I pulled our 90-kilo left tackle. So that was really what the start was about: is what works for us and how can we get this thing going even with very low numbers.
A nice game for you to be able to do that as well, obviously dominant in the victory. So what was the deciding factor when you took out your starters and you got your backups in to let them have some playing time? Like what point of the game did you think, right, this is now time?
To be fair, some of our second stringers were actually already on the field with the first drive. And when Vekomäki went down for a little bit and had to be taken out to be evaluated, Söderholm stepped in, and he's also the guy that later replaced Emerick Nicole when he went down. So, and Gajander, he's the former sprinter that scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's also in some of the packages. So the only main change we made was Bryce. That was about the third quarter. And, we pulled Bryce because we have this Finnish quarterback, Henry Väänänen, who has just gotten back. And we also wanted to evaluate him. It might have been a bit early, but the Roosters have always had this tradition of developing their players. I live by that as well.
And as you said, you had a few injuries already going into the game. So you had 2s and 3s repping in already. Losing someone like Ahtu was a kind of a loss for that game, but it got those other guys some valuable game time. And as you say, it's all about development and working towards next man up mentality, and next year, you don't know who you're going to have, or you don't know who you're going to have next game, for instance, or later on in the season. It only takes one injury, I guess.
Or, with our young team just one high school graduation party, or, like a vacation with the parents.
Yeah, something like that. So after 2 consecutive 40-plus offensive games now, how do you feel about the offense's development so far this season?
I feel good. I think I feel good about the offense, but especially for the team too. I think we have been growing since the Schwäbisch Hall game, and we constantly doing so. Yes, our average age is 21. Yes, we our right tackle from Estonia, Christopher. He has played 2 games before he came to join us, and he's 18 years old. And yes, like I said, a lot of kids are finishing high school right now, but we are constantly improving, and we constantly grow and learn. And that's, I think, that's what makes me happy. So 2 guys that haven't really been talked about much are our 2 wideouts, right? There's Tarmo Pitkänen and Verneri Raino. And Tarmo has made 2 huge catches right before we scored for the first time in the last UNC game. And him stepping up kind of gave us the confidence to score right after that. And Verneri, I think he has now 5 catches on the season. 3 of them are touchdowns. So I got to start calling him RV, kind of red zone Verneri or something. But that kind of shows you that those guys stepped up, and that's kind of the progress those guys are making, and we making as an offense, also as a team, is what we really need, right? That's what kind of makes me happy, and that's how I kind of feel good about this whole team, is that it's constantly improvement. And just that was our first away game. It was raining. UNC had some bodies, all right, and to even to overcome that, or like a slow start, that kind of makes me feel like we're on the right path.
Yeah, it's a great achievement, no doubt. I mean, what you're doing with the offense this season is great, and you seem to have the pieces together, and like you say, a real young, developing team. But with someone like Bryce, who's very experienced, 7 years at college, to have a guy like that be in the team and help these young guys through, he seems to be doing wonders for them, which is great. And I guess it's only going to get better as the season goes on.
I guess that's it's a good question for you as well, because you've been around here now. Is would you take mobile quarterback over a pocket passer?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I guess with like a mobile QB, you've always got that X factor, because you get them outside and they can just make things happen. A guy I play with in my team in the UK, he's an American guy, and he's got that X factor. He just makes things happen, and he just pulls something off crazy, and he can still throw like a 60, 70-yard bomb as well. So I guess for me, I probably would go the mobile QB. If I'm thinking of an offensive coordinator, if I'm thinking with my wide receiver head, I want the ball. So probably like a pocket passer rather than a running QB, but bigger picture. Yeah, I would say, a mobile guy, but it's not all about running down the field. You look at guys like Tom Brady, who moves around in the pocket. You don't have to be mobile out downfield. It could just be those slight little movements in the pocket and stuff that works well for you. So it's not all about mobility.
For sure. And I think, but the biggest issue I see, especially when it comes to scouting, and I talk to other coaches all around Europe, is that mobile quarterback and their highlights, they stick out to people, right? And a guy like Bryce, he's athletic, he can run. He's scored, I think, 3 touchdowns already on his feet, so, but he won't have it on his highlight tape because he also has a lot of amazing throws there, right? So there's a lot of guys.
I bet you he's going to have that touchdown catch on his highlight reel come after this season, that Philly special. That's going to be on there, I know.
Well, I'm glad it worked out,
Yeah, no, it was a good one. Was that pre-called before? When obviously we're going back a couple of games now, but was that pre-called before the game? Oh, we're going to run it today, or was it just come on, let's run this now? We've been practicing it. Let's give it a go.
No, I think we planned for certain situations where we might have to pull that out. Yes, and we had to show it because we wanted to score there. So I guess,
Yeah, nice. We've gone off a bit of a tangent there, so let's get back to the final question now.
All right, for sure.
So going into your bye week, what things are you guys going to focus on to continue developing your offense, your offensive success when you play the Crocodiles on June the 10th?
This is the first long distance away game for a lot of guys, right? And I think that's the biggest challenge for us as coaches, to kind of prepare them the best way possible, right? You have a late night shifts, you have those late practices, and then the early bus that leaves. And I mean, it's always the same routine, but that you get up before the kiosk opens, and you stop for some meatballs and mashed potatoes, and then you go to Seinäjoki, which arguably might be one of the toughest teams, the most physical teams to play against. So to prepare them for that whole process, I think that's going to be the biggest key. And like I said, we have 17-year-olds on our team, so making sure that they're on time, that they don't drink Jaffa and eat potato chips the whole bus. I hope you're listening, Shaggy. That's all for you, by the way. So that's going to be one huge area of concern. Of course, we have to prepare for the Crocs themselves. Their running game is just spectacular. I've been around long enough to know how great Powell is, and as an offense, we have to expect to get physical. So this week is really about what we as coaches can do right to put them in a situation to have success.
Yeah, I guess there's no real way to replicate an away day game. You just gotta go with it and hope, like you say, they turn up on time. Maybe tell them half an hour early the buses leaving before it goes. Get them to turn up early.
The distances in Finland are something different.
Oh, they're crazy, man. Crazy. Anyway, any last words from yourself?
Thanks for having me. If anything comes up ever, please don't hesitate to ask. I always love to talk football and X's and O's. And best of luck to you and your show as well.
Lovely. Coach, just a thanks from me and all of us at AFF for coming on the show, taking the time to talk to me today. I've had fun. It's been great. And we've had a nice little football chat, which is brilliant. So good luck for the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll get you on at some point again, and have a nice week off.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Calling all junior skills players, quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties. If you were born between 2009 and 2003, this midsummer is your opportunity to shine. We'll be hosting our annual AFF Nordic Challenge 7 vs. 7 tournament in Lahti on June 22nd. Top performers will be selected for the AFF Revolution teams in divisions U19, U17, and U15. These teams will have the chance to compete throughout Europe in the fall and play for the European Championship the following spring. If that isn't enough, there will be USA coaches in attendance scouting for the respective high schools and colleges. Due to field availability, registration will close once we meet the maximum number of participants. So head over to the website and sign up today. Registration can be completed at americanfootballinfinland.com/Nordic-challenge. What are some of these tough questions that these teams need to answer in this upcoming week of games? First game is Butchers versus Crusaders, which should be interesting. So, Coach Q, which one of these two teams do you have a question for?
My question is for the Butchers. Are you ready to go now? Are you ready to establish some type of winning season now? Playing against a team that you obviously feel confident going against. So what are you going to come out and do? What are you going to come out and show? For them, it'll be a 2-game winning streak. I think that's something great that you need at this point in the season. You win early and you go to the playoffs. So these are very, very important games. So my main question to the Butchers are you ready to take it to the next level?
What about you, Chris? You got a question for the Crusaders?
Are you going to score any points this week? So we've just seen the Porvoo Butchers dominate the Kotka Eagles. And we say the Kotka Eagles and UNC are kind of on a level playing field. Kotka could not score on that Porvoo defense. So UNC, can you score any points this week? Can you show me something in your offense?
That's crazy because that's how low the bar is. Can you score? The other game is Kuopio Steelers versus Seinäjoki Crocodiles. And I'll ask a question for the Steelers. I won't ask you to put up 50 points because obviously y'all are tired of even trying to do that. So I won't press you to put up a 50 burger. But my question for the Steelers will be, can you get back on track? Can you get back on track? I know you guys won against the Wolverines. I know your team as well. That wasn't the best you could play. That wasn't clean football. Obviously, the rain and stuff had something to do with it, but I don't give a damn about that. My question against the Crocodiles is, can you get back on track? Can you be the Kuopio Steelers Maple Bowl contenders that we expect? That team that beat the Wolverines weren't really Maple Bowl contenders. They were okay, but I'm looking for a great team. So can you get back on track? For the Crocodiles, do y'all have a question for them? Because I got one. I'm going to stay with Impala I trust. So, Chris, what do you got for the Crocodiles?
For the Crocodiles, Christian Powell, can you outplay Lee Anthony Reasonova?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Are you going to outplay him on the stat sheet? Are you going to outplay him on the field? Pass blocking, run blocking, like running? Can you outplay him?
And Madden doesn't count. You can't just play him in Madden and then put a screenshot. That doesn't count, guys. We're talking real football. All right, that does it for tough questions, man. Hope y'all can answer those this weekend. Only the 2 games. So Maple League teams back to action on Thursday with Butchers versus Crusaders. Steelers and Crocodiles play on Sunday. Our panel of football enthusiasts will pick winners for this week's games on our Instagram account at American Football in Finland. Feel free to find us in the comments with your thoughts. Right now, our rankings are in first place. Chris Green is 7-0. Perfect Pervis is 6-1. Finland Swami is also 6-1. Spencer is 5-2. Coach Q is in last at 4-3. And that is where we are on our pick'ems. Look good, play good. It's as simple as that. And Reyrr Athletics will help you look good in their fully customizable team uniforms. Made by players, for players. Reyrr Athletics produces high-quality uniforms for teams all over Europe. Reyrr also allows teams to design custom apparel for comfortable travel and workout purposes. Visit Reyrr.se today to take your team to the next level. Stay sharp. That's it for this episode of American Football in Finland. Hope it was worth the listen. Any last words before we get out of here, fellas?
Hey, congratulations to all the people that's graduating and everybody that plays this weekend. We look forward to seeing it.
I'm just hoping to keep my record perfect for this weekend. So let's get it going.
I don't even know my picks, but yeah, I'm doing pretty good. One thing I just want to say, shout out to the Steelers for getting that dub, because I was in a very vulnerable position in that stands wearing that Steelers hat, and y'all came through for me, so I appreciate that. Also, shout out to the Helsinki Wolverine Ladies team, because again, I put that hat on Instagram, supporting the team with my pick, and the bouncers have been, they've been at my throat lately. So this was a tough pick for me. And I'm just glad you ladies came through and got that win. Just good to be right on pick'em sometimes. If you enjoy the show, please follow us wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars as well. Anything less will tell us that you are a hater. You can follow us on the gram and Facebook at American Football in Finland. Also, by following us on all channels, you'll have a chance to win football merch provided by our sponsors at Reyrr Athletics. Be sure to follow the instructions in the episode description below. Until next time, never forget
T-I-F.
And we go.
We go.
We out of here.
American Football in Finland.